Hello, I'm Connor Richmond, a sophomore here at Purdue University studying construction engineering and management.
I'm from a small town in southern Indiana, Madison. The town is rich with history but small in size. So when I made the decision to fly out to San Francisco and work on a construction project that could house my entire high school, it wasn't an easy transition. I had to find a place to live, figure out the public transportation system, and most importantly, learn to work with professionals. I had never worked in an office environment or ever even been on a construction site. I had a lot to learn. My project was the Transbay Block 8 high-end residential development in San Francisco, California, in the Soma district. The project entitled the Avery is a 55-story, 618-foot tall tower filled with 548 residences and a price tag of just over $300 million. San Francisco is a rapidly expanding city with some of the largest up-and-coming tech companies in the country. With that, San Francisco currently has the highest rent prices in the country and the world, so more residential space is greatly needed. Interestingly, although the residences in the building started over $1 million on the market, the building will also be home to those people who qualify for discounted housing. This is due to regulations in the city of San Francisco, but those regulations come with some public money. I worked for Related, the owner of the project, and on my first day was the day of the topping off party. So the project was in its final third, but this was also the time that the most number of people would be working on the project every day. But keeping the more than dozen crews out of each other's way was not my company's issue. We were the owners, so we were focused on checking quality, enforcing big picture deadlines, and keeping costs low. My first big assignment for Related was to analyze sprinkler heads. The contractor we hired to design and install the fire suppression system had increased the total number of sprinkler heads by 10%. On a project as large as the Avery, this was not an inexpensive update. My boss tasked me to compare the original estimations with the up-to-date drawings and see if the request was due to changes in design or were errors in estimation from the get-go. If the errors were from the beginning, then we wouldn't have to pay the contractor for the added heads. I was given the rules for how sprinkler heads had to be placed and worked with one of my GC's engineers to come up with a game plan for organizing all the changes that had to be made. For a few weeks, I dug through the drawings and sorted about 50% of all the sprinkler heads into categories. With all that work, I found that over half the heads that the contractor wanted to add to the building were from errors that they had made. This was a huge win for us because my boss could show the contractors the 20-plus pages of work I had done to come to this conclusion, and that alone would be a huge bargaining chip for us. After just a few weeks of work, I had already paid for my entire internship, which felt great. It feels good to see your work make a huge difference. Although I made big contributions in the office, I also got to work on site almost every day, and getting to work outside was the best. Climbing scaffolding, getting to walk wherever I wanted to on site. As someone who is naturally curious, getting to work for the owner was a fantastic experience because everything that was being done was my business. I could explore for hours, and every time I went on site, I learned something new. My greatest triumph of the summer combined the office side of things and the fieldwork. There was the installation that was going over the curtain wall, which were essentially sunshades. I was tasked to find the fasteners on the physical building so that when the shades arrived, they could be installed without delay. I had never really had to look at construction drawings before, so this was a daunting task. In order to find the fasteners, I had to go through 3 or 4 different drawings to find a single fastener. And after finding the fasteners in the drawings, I had to locate them on the physical building to make sure that they had been installed. This was quite the challenge. When I first started, I made many mistakes. For example, I didn't consider that I couldn't tell which floor I was on when I was on the scaffolding. I felt like a fool when I had to climb back down 6 or 7 ladders just so I could count the floors. But after much climbing and the scavenger hunting, it proved to be a worthwhile effort. I had found a missing fastener and it was installed before the shades arrived.
Before arriving in San Francisco, I wish I knew what it was like to be the boss of someone much older than me. I'd never had experience with it before, but over the months I pursued and I learned a lot about how to be a better voice of authority and knowing when to ask for help.